y'all, welcome back to the farm. If you're new here, I'm Susie, and here on my channel I love to show you guys how I take thrifted, discarded items and I upcycle them to sell here in my vintage home decor store in Alabama. If that's the kind of content you like, I would love it if you would subscribe and join me every Wednesday night at 6 here on YouTube. Let's go ahead and get started with today's projects. So these are the items that I have picked from my stash to upcycle today. I've had them for a minute or two. So I have these beautiful ornate candlesticks. There's 3 of them. This says I paid $6.99. Hopefully it was a half off day because it's unlikely I paid that. I have these 2 ceramic pieces, and I also have this white pitcher. This has been in my china cabinet, and it's got some scratches. And since I'm going to paint it anyway, I'm going to repair that little ding. This cute little chicken box, I found it in the basement. It didn't even get moved. I have an old footstool and a cross because crosses sell really well for me. I'm going to start with this wooden cross. It's a good size. It's wood. It's a Hobby Lobby piece. So I took the tags off, cleaned it up. Anything with words on it doesn't seem to sell well anymore, but everything with apothecary paint on it seems to sell really well. So first thing I'm going to do is give this cross 2 coats of apothecary paint. This is a clay-based DIY paint. It's one of my best-selling colors. This has great coverage. It's highly pigmented. I am being sure to get down into those cracks. And I'm going to give this 2 coats all over and let it dry. And once it's dry, I am going to come back and wet distress. Well, I tried wet distressing this, but then it didn't distress the way I wanted it. I wanted it pretty heavily distressed. So I also used some sandpaper, and I found that that method worked better. I just get the paint wet, and then I use a piece of sandpaper to rub over it and distress. Now, we had some black in some places because of those words, and we had some wood in some places, and I like that look, so I'm just going to go with it. After it is dried, I wanted to put a transfer on it, and this is the lavender from the Painterly Florals. There's tons of lavender in that book. I was going to put it all over this cross, but once I put it in the middle and kind of layered them over each other, I really like that look, and I decided to keep it simple. And so to finish this off, once I got the transfer down, I did 1 even layer of Big Top Sealer. This is a really good, durable, fast-drying sealer. For something that's going to hang on the wall, this protects it really well, seals in that paint, and then this cross is done. I love the simple look of it and the color, and I have made a new cross display in the store, and I'm trying to fill up an entire wall. But they sell so fast that I can't seem to get the wall filled up, but I'm working on it, and I'll give you guys a glimpse of that here. I'm going to tackle these candlesticks next. I've already cleaned them up really well. They are gorgeous. The detail on them is gorgeous. The gold paint, not so much. Not sure what was used. I went back and forth on what color to paint these, and I did decide to go with DIY weathered wood. It's a wonderful neutral. It goes great with any colors, and I knew that these would be stunning. So I just sat down, took my time, gave them all 2 coats of weathered wood. You know, with all those details, I had to go back over and touch up some places several times. And now the best method for bringing out all of these beautiful details to me is simply dry brushing. And dry brushing is just like it sounds. You put some paint on your brush, you wipe most of it back, and then you just lightly brush over your project. You can go as heavy or as light as you want. I prefer to go pretty heavy on items like this, and I just sat down and dry brushed all 3 of these candlesticks. And I'm using Fusion in the color Chateau. It's a beautiful off-white. I use it all the time. To seal these up, ideally, I would take them outside and give them a couple coats of a spray sealer. Just because of all those details, you're going to have a lot of pooling in there. But it's freezing as I'm filming this and raining outside, so I just didn't feel like dealing with the weather. So I just sat down and I got cozy, and I sealed these with one coat of Fusion Tough Coat in a matte sealer, and I was just really careful. I did a really light coat and made sure I didn't have any pooling in all those details. And my goodness, y'all, did these not turn out absolutely stunning? I will price these individually, but I will style them as a set of 3, and they are just gorgeous. If you've been hanging around on my channel a while, you may remember that estate sale I went to over a year ago that had hundreds of ceramic. I have got the last 2 pieces that I got in this video. They were stuck back in a shelf in the basement. So for this duck or swan, not sure which one it is, I really thought I might could just clean him up, add a little bit more dark wax on there, and he would be good. But after I got him cleaned up, he still looked dirty to me, and I did not like the color of his beak and his feet. So I decided to go ahead and paint him, and I knew as soon as I put that first little bit on, I made the right decision. I'm using the same Chateau, and I'm giving him, and I also had this unfinished bunny left. So they got 2 coats, and now this step would be completely optional. I've been told many times people don't like the dirty look of this aging wax, but personally I love it, and it sells really well for me. So I am going over all this duck with the Fusion aging wax. This is my favorite dark wax, and I am just putting a little bit on, and then I'll rub it back. Now, if I was using a chalk-based paint, I would definitely want to put a clear coat on first to help me wipe back. But with this Fusion, it has a top coat. I didn't need to do that. However, I don't like when the wax kind of pulls up in areas. So I cleaned my brush and I went back over it until I got the look that I was absolutely going for. And like I said, this is a step that you don't have to take, but it works for me. So I enjoy aging all my detailed items. And I did the bunny the exact same way, and they are gorgeous now. I just love the look of Chateau with the aging wax over it. Look at that sweet little bunny. How cute are they? So I knew this stool was old. I should have known there were at least 3 layers of upholstery on that seat. And of course there were. To begin with, I took the seat off. It just had 2 screws holding it in. I'm saving them because I know that they'll work to go right back in. I removed the top, and I began the tedious process of removing this upholstery. Now, yes, this was tedious, and it probably would have been easier to just cut a new board. There was 3 layers of old, nasty fabric, old nails, old staples. Definitely would have been easier to cut a new board, but again, same day, it's freezing, raining. I did not want to deal with the weather outside, so I just sat down and I got all of these staples and nails and all this old fabric off of this piece of wood that is a perfect fit for our little footstool. once that job was tackled, it was time to move on to the base. So I cleaned it really good, and I'm going to paint it with Apothecary. You'll see in a minute that I had an inspiration for this one. I redid that headboard and footboard that I've had in the store forever, and I did it exactly the same way. I'm distressing this using sandpaper and the wet distress method. I love the look of that wood tone distressed underneath Apothecary. It always looks amazing. So I'm using a combination of sandpaper and wet, and once it's all distressed and dried, I'm going to seal it in with some clear wax. I believe this is a fusion clear wax. I cut down a piece of foam to fit on that board, and I had this beautiful fabric that had just the right amount of that Apothecary color in it. It's a tablecloth, actually. And to stick this foam to the board, I'm going to use a little bit of a spray adhesive. You need to spray it on and then give it a couple of minutes to get tacky. So I just laid it on there, and that helps hold it in place while I upholster it. Now, I've been told many times that I do not upholster correctly, and that very well may be the case. But I just cut the fabric down, I staple the sides, and Jessie got me this amazing battery-operated stapler, which helps so much with my hands and my carpal tunnel and makes much quicker work of upholstering. Like I said, I'm probably not doing this right, but it works for me and it looks good in the end. So that's just how I upholster. I'm going to cut off all the excess fabric. I'm going to put the top back on the bench, and it's just beautiful. It's going to be, of course, priced separately from the big one here that I made, but I'm styling it with it because they look so cute together. I'm almost embarrassed to say how long I've had this cute little chicken box, and I do think it's precious. There is some paper missing, and I don't really care for the faux rust look on it or the paint job. So we're going to upcycle this today. I tried to think about chicken things that I have, and this Roy Cycle paper called Barnyard Masterboard came to mind. So I'm just kind of seeing how all the pieces would fit there on the front and what I should do. So I wasn't sure. I began by painting it with Chateau. I'm going to do 2 coats all over except for the inside. And this fusion paint is so easy to paint with. It has a self-leveler in it, so you don't really get problems with brush strokes, and it always looks even and perfect. Now, I did decide to go ahead and paint the rooster with some cast iron. This is also a fusion paint. This was the very bottom of my can. It was quite thick. Worked perfectly to paint over this. I only had to do 1 coat, and if some of that faux rust comes back through, that would be perfect because it would look even more authentically cast iron. Now, I decided not to go with the Barnyard Masterboard. I really just didn't feel like this was a good candidate for decoupaging on. And then I remembered the little rooster label from the Antiquities stamp. And it was a perfect fit, so I went ahead and stamped it on the front of the box and the back just to be safe. This is an IOD stamp, and it is available. All these products that I use are available on my website if you're interested in getting some to upcycle your own items. And this little rooster label was a perfect addition to this box for sure. Now, this next step is completely optional. I prefer to bring out details on areas like the top and the bottom of this box with wax. And for this one, I'm going to use black wax. It's dark, but it should look really good on here. You could skip this step, or you could distress it if you wanted to highlight those details. But I'm going to use this black wax, and I'm going to concentrate on the bottom and the top part and the sides. And because this is fusion paint and has that built-in sealer, I don't need to do a clear wax first, but be sure if you're using a chalk style or a more porous paint that you'll want to do that, so you'll have more control wiping back your dark wax. See, it just gives just the perfect hint of details. I did want a little bit more on the top and the bottom, so I went back over that again until I got the look that I was going for. I ended up doing the entire box, really concentrating on the details and the edges. Wiped it all back, and I love how this box turned out. It's so cute. My next Whatnot show, I think is the 23rd, I'm not sure, but it's going to be all about storage, home decor storage solutions. So there's baskets and bins and boxes. This one will probably be available in that show if you're interested. I'll leave a link for that in the description here, along with an invite and a $15 credit if you're new to Whatnot. It's so fun over there. We get to hang out. You guys get to bid on the items that I've upcycled, and it really helps me out a lot too. I love how this turned out. Looking back, I may go over that rooster with some white wax. I feel like he's just a little too stark for the age look of the box, but otherwise, I think this turned out so beautiful. Finally, for our last project today, it is this white pitcher. This came from my house. It's been on top of my china cabinet for years. It did have, when I bought it, I think I got it on clearance at TJ Maxx. It did have that little chip. That's no problem, you just turn it around. But throughout the years, I've also got some scratches on it. So since I'm gonna paint it, I'm gonna go ahead and repair this little flea bite here. And to do that, I just put a little bit of Titebond glue on. And now I'm using the tiniest bit of air dry clay, and I'm just smoothing it out with my fingers as much as I can. I let it dry overnight, and then I'm gonna use some sandpaper to finish getting it smooth. Now my sandpaper was dirty, so that's why it's leaving those marks, but I am gonna paint this anyway, so I just need to get it really smooth to the touch. And I am redecorating my dining room, and I'm going with all blue and white. Well, not all blue and white. And you say, well, this was already white. It's like, yeah, but I needed a few more blue elements. Of course, I have plenty of white stuff. So I am giving this 2 coats of Fusion in the color Midnight Blue. This is a beautiful dark blue color, and I did 2 coats, and Fusion covers perfectly even on this super shiny surface. I had 2 of the white labels from the Traditional Pots transfer book left. I had to search high and low for them, but I found them. I didn't have to open a new one. This one was the perfect scale. So if you've never used a transfer before, they're really easy, especially over a Fusion paint that has the sealer in it. Once it is dry, it is very easy just to rub and lift. And if you have a piece that doesn't lay down, you just lay it back down and rub some more. Even on this curved surface, this one worked out beautifully. You would need to seal over this. Since this is going back to my house, I'm going to be on top of my china cabinet. I'm not going to try to sell it. I'm not going to seal over this. I don't want to mess with the sheen anymore. I think it's beautiful just like it is. Here at the store, I styled it with some hydrangeas, but I do have some beautiful white roses at home that I think I'll put in this, and it will go perfect with my new dining room.